Welcome to the Truth Driven Ministries Podcast, where we talk about things like growth mindsets, healing, communication, identity, mission, and purpose. Are you feeling stuck? Don't worry. We'll be discussing practical ways to break through and level up your life. Let's get started. Hi. Today, I want to talk to you about a subject about spiritual growth. Sometimes we work so hard on our spiritual growth, but we don't see the results that we want to see.
Yeah.
So today, I want to talk to you about 5 ways you might be sabotaging everything you're working so hard to accomplish. 5 little subject areas. And this is by no means completely comprehensive. So don't come at us in the comments or...
There is a lot more we could add to this list.
Yes, there is. What I was looking at is generally there's predictors of when clients come in, you know, either through the ministry or through the counseling. We can kind of tell right out of the gate whether they're going to do really well or really poorly.
Yes.
And these are some of the, like I'd say, the traits of people who do well. Or actually, we're going to do it in the reverse.
Okay.
Traits of people who are not going to do so well versus traits of people that are going to knock it out of the park. So you want to kind of see like, oh man, I might be doing something that is preventing me from growing like I want to do.
That's right.
So let's get into these right away. Number 1, ways you might be sabotaging your spiritual growth. And I just made a couple notes here.
All right.
We talk about this here all the time. Number 1 way you might be sabotaging is fixed mindset.
Ooh, can't really grow with that.
No, you don't want a fixed mindset. And really what we're talking about with the fixed mindset is there's no room for change. There's no room for growth. Everything is, this is the way it was. It will always be this way. There's no chance of it evolving, growing, becoming different. If you have a fixed mindset, it always...
A little closer. Sorry.
If you have a fixed mindset, what is going to happen is whatever your picture is in your head, the way that it's been done before is the only way that it could ever be done, and you cannot bust out of that. That's kind of like when we talk about blueprints. Your fixed mindset is on your blueprint. So whatever, if you think that, let's say, conflict is bad, right? And you have a fixed mindset about conflict, you're going to have a hard time working things out with people.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you have a partner or sometimes your friends, you'll see it's the opposite. Like
Yes.
one of you will have no problem with conflict and the other will be like,
Yes.
we need to do conflict.
Yes.
So,
And so when you think about a fixed mindset, just it's exactly like that. Think of it set in concrete. Your mind is set in concrete and it's very rigid. There's no other way to do it but then the one way that you've been exposed to, which is funny because there's a lot of different ways to do it.
yeah.
So again, if you're going to sabotage yourself, you're going to have a fixed mindset. So you ask, well, if we don't have a fixed mindset, what mindset should we have?
A growth mindset.
Yes.
Always be growing.
Yes. We always talk about growth mindsets here and a learner mindset. And really it's the same thing. Because if I have a learner mindset, then
I'm open.
There's other ways in which I am like, okay, maybe I can try this. Maybe I can try that. And I'll say another thing about growth mindset is I don't attach my identity to it. I don't attach, like if I make a mistake or if something that I tried just didn't work, I am not attaching that's not who I am. That's just what I'm doing. Big difference.
Yeah.
Because then I can do things that don't work and it doesn't
Mean you're a failure.
It doesn't mean I'm a failure,
Right.
and it doesn't send me spiraling down into a pit.
Because it's not attached to your identity is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not attached to your identity. Therefore, it's not, I am not a failure. I just failed at something I tried.
Exactly. And when you have a learner mindset, what you're saying is, wow, I crossed one thing off of the list that's not going to work. And when you begin to look at it, if you think of a little baby beginning to crawl, beginning to walk, we're not like, if they fall down, we're not like, oh, you loser, you're never going to walk. We're excited because we see that we see progress that they're making. So again, for number one, what are we talking about?
A fixed mindset
Versus
a
growth mindset. Big difference.
Which is the same as a learner mindset,
Yes.
is what you're saying.
Because with our clients, when we begin to see, if somebody comes in with a fixed mindset, you cannot tell them anything. And it's
true.
harsh.
It's true.
But one of the things, they'll come in and they'll ask you a question, and it's really a farce. They're not really asking. They're just telling you what they want to hear, really basically. So they will ask you that, and you will say, well, what about this? No, that won't work. Well, what about this? No, that won't work. Well, what about this? No, that won't work. Because that's what it can look like sometimes. And then we have to say to them, well, I don't know that I can help you. You're coming in here, you're saying that what you're doing isn't working, but yet everything that we're suggesting, you immediately say, nope, won't work, nope, won't work, nope, won't work.
Yeah. And do you find that people can get into a place where they're typically someone that has a growth mindset and they can kind of get stuck and switch over into a fixed mindset?
Yes. Good point. Because all you have to do is recognize, oh man, I'm in a fixed mindset right now. And as long as I'm in a fixed mindset and I can recognize that, then I can jump out of it back into a growth mindset. I could be like, wow, I'm not approaching this with the learner's mindset. But if I'm in a fixed mindset and I don't recognize it, I'm going to be stuck for quite a while.
Yeah. And asking yourself questions, like I think ways to kind of see, am I fixed? Am I growth? Is if I don't see an answer, if I think there is no solution to this problem ahead of me, you're probably in a fixed mindset.
Yes. And it's that definition of insanity. If you're doing the same thing again and again and again, and it's not working in your life, then what do you do?
Yeah. What do you do at that point?
Then
sorry, I'm checking on our sound. We're good.
We're good on the sound.
Yes, we're good on sound. Sorry about that, guys.
So with I totally lost train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
No. So we're trying to do like 5,000 jobs at one time. But really with that fixed mindset, it makes you feel like you're on that hamster wheel. It's not that you're not putting in a lot of effort into growth, into trying to change.
Yeah.
But it is literally what will kill growth.
And we all hate that. Because the whole point of coming and talking to somebody and it's to grow.
Yes.
And it's what we're here to do. It's what you come in for.
Yeah.
And when you're not growing, it can feel very frustrating.
And like we're talking about on your blueprint, if it's on your blueprint, then what happens? If it's a fixed mindset and that's just all roads lead to that, you're not having that learner mindset at all. And the learner mindset, the growth mindset is needed for you to think outside of the box, for you to be able to listen to a solution that maybe you haven't thought of before with an open, positive mind versus kind of like, when you're like 2 or 3 or 4, it's like, nope. Oh,
I think we can all have that mindset sometimes.
Yes.
I hear the 4-year-old in my head sometimes. Yeah.
And we have workshops here where we go into fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So maybe pretty soon we'll need to expand on that because it's a whole thing, I promise you, in your life where you will sabotage yourself if you have a fixed mindset. So being able to recognize that you're having a fixed mindset, very, very important. But just remember the couple little things about it. If you are just being rigid in the way that you think it's this way and the only way, that's going to be a problem. If you experience in your life that I'm doing the same thing and nothing ever changes, probably a fixed mindset.
Probably not going to get you anywhere.
No. So
you're going to stay running on that hamster wheel.
And that's going to be very, very frustrating because you're still expending energy trying to grow. You just don't understand why it's not happening.
Yeah.
Which is the whole reason we're doing this live so that you can understand, like, wow, are you sabotaging yourself maybe in ways that you don't realize it? Okay, let's do Number two. Number two way you could be sabotaging yourself, and then we'll tell you the antidote for that. Number 2 is blaming.
Oh. Nobody wants to be called a blamer. You're a blamer. You're blaming.
But we do. We blame. We have an immature way of looking at things, an immature way of thinking, because I didn't start out with this. But let me read this real quick. In Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable, perfect will of God. We are to transform our mind. We have the world's thinking, and what we want to do is change it to kingdom thinking. And in changing it to kingdom thinking, we do have to get that learner's mindset and not a fixed mindset, right? Yeah. So in blaming, we have to get a whole different way of thinking. We're usually, if we've grown up in a way where we've learned to look at everything outside of us to figure out what's going on with us. Mm-hmm. Angie, do you feel okay today? I don't know. Let's see. Is Rob happy with me? Is he not happy with me? Are my kids doing well or not? Then I'm used to, instead of looking internally, I have to look externally for everything. Sorry, I'm tickle on my nose. So I'm used to looking externally. And if I'm used to looking externally, the world is up and down constantly. So I don't have any stability. So in order to try to gain that stability, what I have to do is I have to micromanage everything around me. And when I do that, I become a blamer. Because why? You're causing my life to be upset. You made me mad. You made me sad. You didn't do this, so I didn't do this. Once you start that cycle of blaming, you no longer look to yourself as being
a solution to the problem.
Yes.
Because if they're the problem, then they're the solution.
So what are you going to have to do?
Control
You're going to have to micromanage them, control them, manipulate, all those fun things that destroy relationships and don't make you feel any better.
Is that also something that comes from your blueprint?
It definitely does, because if we're not taught to take ownership, which is the antidote to blaming, if I can take ownership of my problem, Angie's feelings are about Angie. Yeah. They're not about anybody else. If I'm feeling sad, it's not anybody else's responsibility to make me feel not sad. If Angie feels mad, then Angie's got to figure that out. I am to take ownership of my life. I don't care whether it's somebody else's fault. We don't like that word. We don't like the F word. Around here, the F word around here is fault. It's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. If you're going to think in that terms like that, the extreme, it's my fault or their fault, then you're not going to be able to take the antidote to blaming, which is ownership.
Yeah. And I think people can also get into, it's almost like if you can stop blaming other people, then you'll turn blame on yourself. But there's a fine line between blaming yourself and taking ownership. And they're two very different things.
It's a good point, because if you're blaming one or two people. You're blaming externally everything around you. Or we do this false humility thing where it's like, I'm such a terrible person. I do everything wrong. So that's not really taking ownership. That's just a victim mentality.
Yeah, which will get you nowhere.
No.
And it will sabotage you.
It will very, 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 very much.
It will not serve you.
Yes. And another thing about blaming I wanted to point out is you're giving what we call your power away. I have the power in my life, which is the ownership. I take ownership of my life. But if I take my ownership papers and give them to somebody else, here, Christina, then
I'll take over your life.
Thank
you.
Problem. You're in charge now.
Okay, yes.
Now you're my problem.
Oh, no. So now you want to control me, manipulate me.
Back.
Okay, I give it back.
I take it back. And it really does work that way.
Yep.
And that's where you begin to get a victim mindset. That's where you begin to get that polarized thinking, like, I can't make anybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this. When you have a lot of I can't, because of so-and-so this, because of this situation, because of my job. Like when we start transferring our power, start transferring the ownership of my responsibility of my life to other things and other people, I get that victim mindset.
Right. Because then it's, I'm not smart enough. Nobody will help me. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sounds like an empowered person.
Boo. It sounds like a weenie. So, and we laugh about it, but in Christianity, God, we have his DNA.
Yeah.
And we are so much more powerful than we believe that we are. But what do? We act like little weenies running around saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. Another thing that I want you to think about in this is, like, we're talking about blame, but we didn't ever see Jesus. Our model should be Jesus. It's not like, oh, I'm going to compare myself to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to compare yourself to anybody, let it be Jesus. Are you reflecting his lifestyle? So I didn't see Jesus running around, oh, the Pharisees are being so mean to me today. They're being so mean to me. I can't go teach over here. I can't preach over here. Yes, I'm being a smart aleck about it. But it's so true.
It's so true.
Like, I didn't see Jesus being a victim. I didn't see him blaming other people. If anybody should be able to carry a blame card, like,
It would be
legitimately, it would be.
Yeah.
But Jesus didn't do that. He just took ownership for his life. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And he didn't blame people for preventing him from doing what he wanted, what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think we should follow suit in that, because when we have our clients come in and they start blaming their circumstances, other people in their life, all of that kind of stuff, we're like, immediately no.
Just stop.
Just nope, it's not going to work. What we're going to do is we're going to teach you to manage your life. We're going to teach you to manage yourself. But what about my boss? He yelled at me today. Get it, then quit.
That's
I don't
right.
want to quit. Why don't you
I
want to
can't
quit? Because then I won't have a paycheck. Well, then you better learn how to deal with your boss yelling at you, or get some boundaries, or there's other options. When you
Right.
stop blaming and stop looking for everybody to make an easier, softer path for you, then you have some new options pop up.
It's good.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
we want to quit blaming, and we want to start taking ownership of our life. Angie has to manage Angie. Who does Christina have to manage?
Fortunately, me. No, no, it's actually a good thing, because then I actually have a say, because I'm actually taking responsibility. And it goes back to that growth mindset.
And we don't
if you're in blaming, you're not in a growth mindset.
No.
You're
and
in
we
a
don't use the
fixed
F word.
mindset.
What's the F word?
Fault.
Fault. We don't talk about fault, do we?
No,
What is fault?
it's
Nothing.
blame. Fault is
It's
blame.
not my fault. Who cares
Right.
if it's your fault? Your life is your responsibility.
That's right.
People who tend to do really well and grow really well tend to not focus on fault. They tend to not blame, but they tend to take ownership of the responsibility. It doesn't matter how something happened, why something happened. One of the things we talk about, like the difference between blame and responsibility, or fault and responsibility, because they can look different. Let's say if you were in an automobile accident, you pulled out into traffic and somebody hit you. It might be your, let's say that a different way. Let's say somebody pulled out and hit you. It's not your fault that you got hit, but it might be your responsibility if you want to get your car fixed, that you have to
Yes.
you have to do some things. You have to do some things that you didn't want to do. You might have to contact your insurance company, things like that. So fault and responsibility really are two very, very, very different things. You have to take ownership of your life. You have to take responsibility for you. Doesn't matter whether you're at fault or not. You have a hand that life has dealt you. You're either going to play it or be a crybaby about it.
I was going to say, be a blamer.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
those are your choices.
and I don't say it flippantly, about I come from a a background that has some trauma in it. You come from a background that has some trauma in it. And I'm not ever putting down trauma, but two people can go through the same experiences or similar experiences. And what's the difference? It really is a mindset. It really is how we look about things. It's not my fault that things that happened to me. It's not your fault that things that happened to you.
No.
But do I want to stay stuck? I don't want to stay stuck. So I'm going to take responsibility and accountability for that. If you are in a situation, speaking to somebody out there, if you're in a situation and you don't like the situation that you are in, you have options. If you feel like you don't have options, get in touch with us because you have a fixed mindset. I promise you, there always are options. Our options don't always feel comfortable to us, but you have options.
Yes, they are out there. You might not be able to see them. You might be in your box where the only options you see are what you see, but there is somebody out there that can see it from a different perspective and can offer you a different option.
Yes. So number 2 is blaming. The antidote is taking ownership. Okay, so let's stop for a second and talk about, in case you're just tuning in or you don't know who we are, I am Angie Lynch, and this is
Christina Crane.
And we are with Truth Driven Ministries. And what we do here at Truth Driven Ministries is we're a hospital for the hurting and a training ground for warriors. So a lot of what we do here, we do faith-based counseling. We have workshops. We have healing meetings. So anything really healing, freedom, we got you covered. So I'd encourage you to check us out. Subscribe to, we'll probably post, this is on Facebook, but we'll post it on YouTube too. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date. And it helps us with algorithms out there. I mean, it's sad that we have to talk about algorithms, but they really are a thing. The more that you like, comment, and share and subscribe to channels, it tells people, people want that content. So if you want to see more information like this, ways to really get freedom in your life, please do those things.
Join us.
Yes.
You will grow.
You really will.
You will grow.
And we work really hard to build a community that supports each other.
Yes.
It's very, very, important. In person and then also online.
Yeah.
So there's that. We'll move on to number 3.
Yay.
Number 3 in Are You Sabotaging Yourself is, do you have a low pain tolerance?
It's an interesting one to put in there. I mean, it's very key. It's very true, but it's a very interesting point for you to add in there. I like that.
I wanted to mix it up a little bit in the way that I think people don't think about having a low pain tolerance, but we
agree.
talk about it here. In fact, next Roundtable Sunday, we're going to talk about how to grow your grit factor. And it's kind of what this keys into is we think we shouldn't experience pain. If I experience pain, then something must be wrong, when that couldn't be further from the truth. Jesus' promise is that, God's promise is that he will walk through it with us. He never says your life will be painful or pain-free. But we get a mindset on our blueprint that tells us if you have pain, then there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with your life. That is simply not true.
Yeah, and we spend our lives running from pain. I mean, we do all the things we do, all the mechanisms we have is just for us to try to get away from ever experiencing pain again or to get out of the pain that we're in now.
Instead of just processing it or address it. And, basically when you're experiencing pain, your situation has outgrown your capacity for you to cope with that pain. If my pain is this and my coping skills is like that, then I'm going to experience more pain. And a lot of people that come in, they're like, oh, I just feel crazy. I feel this way. I feel anxious. I feel mad all the time. Well, of course you do. If you're having pain and you don't know how to deal with it, and historically you haven't dealt with it, so your pain has, like, if you think about it like here, stack, then you're losing it over the small stuff because it doesn't feel small, it feels huge because you don't process pain. You just kind of keep it down, and then it just, usually at the most inopportune time, poop, just pops.
And then you feel bad. So then you go into shame. It's just this cycle that happens over and over again.
It is a huge cycle.
That you could really just cut it off at the, at the pass and learn how to process pain.
Yes. And just really having that false belief that I shouldn't be in pain. And if I experience pain, then there's something wrong with me. Let's get this over now. There's nothing, you are going to have pain in your life, and there is nothing wrong with you. I cannot control what other people do. I can only control my response to something. So unfortunately in life, people have free will, and sometimes other people's choices have impacts on our lives that are very negative, and that can be painful. Now, we don't want to go into the blaming, you did this, so I'm suffering. You can do that, but I'm still suffering, and it's my responsibility to make that different. How is it my responsibility? Because no one's going to come and be your knight in shining armor. Like, I can only manage me. You can only manage you. Other people can only manage themselves. And we all, I think, grew up on fairy tales, like Cinderella.
100%.
I'm scrubbing the floors, but my prince is going to come and save me. And hear me, I believe 100% that God will put people in your life to help uplift you and to speak a word to you when you need encouragement and things like that. But we have this distorted sense that somebody is going to provide what God provides for us.
That's true.
It's not going to be your spouse. It's not going to be your friend. It's not that God doesn't work through those people, but you are going to have to realize that people can't be God to you.
Yeah, because we really want, it goes back to the wanting people to take care of us, wanting people to step in and do the things. It's like we don't want to cry out to God. And then when we do cry out to God, now we want him to do everything, because we can get into all of that with him, blaming with him, fixed mindset with him. All of that we can turn towards him and think that he should step in and magically solve the problem. Yeah. God works in a lot of ways, and he solves things in a lot of ways.
But we have to grow our tolerance for pain.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's not that God wants you to suffer, but at the same time, we create a lot of our own suffering. So what is our antidote to our low pain tolerance? We leverage our productive pain. And what I mean by productive pain, it's very different. We have that hamster wheel pain that we kind of just cycle through and create ourselves in that anxious, desperate mode. But then we have productive pain. Let's say you have somebody, they have an argument, right? And they say something to the other person that they're not really proud of. Well, does that, that creates what I believe conviction or a productive pain that says, you know what, I'm really operating outside of who God created me to be. And I need to take a look at what I need to heal or what I need to do so I'm not acting out of who God, not who he didn't create me to be. I'm acting out of my wounded self versus my righteous self. And it's righteous isn't what you're doing. Jesus died on the cross to make you righteous. And we should take advantage of that, right? Are you righteous regardless of what you do?
I am.
You
on
are.
my worst day. I am still righteous.
That's right. It's not based off of our behavior, but we are called to grow up in the Lord, to grow up in it. And so how do we begin to grow up? That's what I call the productive pain, the little sting of, oh, that's not who God created me to be. Not the pain of our blueprint says we're a nobody, so I'm a failure, and if I do this, then I failed, and like that beat yourself up, that shame spiral that you begin to just spiral down in. Low pain tolerance says any amount of pain is going to break me. Leveraging our productive pain means that, you know what, this situation, now that it's here and it's occurred, I want to get all the lessons I can from this pain. Yeah.
So if we switch our mindset from pain is bad to pain can be productive if I let it, And pain can teach me things and show me things and help me grow. So if we change our thinking about pain, it's no longer going to sabotage us when we're trying to accomplish things in our life.
Yeah,
It's going to propel us.
Because we cannot be allergic to pain. If you notice, most people, like our clients, where they get the most anxious is they're trying to avoid pain. They're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be painful. But we should understand that life is painful.
It is.
Like pain isn't the enemy. Pain can be productive because it makes us evaluate. And I'm not saying at all, like some people will say, well, God, did this so that I could learn to be appreciative. No, God, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that you have life and have it more abundantly. Like abundant life comes from him. Stealing, killing, and destroying comes from the enemy. And so if something negative is happening in your life like that, you better bet that God's going to use it. Since the enemy already put it there, he's going to use it to return blessing into your life. So he's going to use it in a productive way. So if you kind of get that mindset, you don't become so worried about like if I screw up or if my coworker screws me over or, just life happens, that God is going to turn it to your benefit. So no matter what type of pain it is and how it was introduced to your life, it can become productive pain.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. And if we could just focus in on that
Yeah.
and not get sucked in every single time somebody does something that we think like, oh my gosh. And then we turn on that person. Because what I see too is I see people kind of get distracted by the enemy in that way.
Oh my gosh.
It's like
all
they
the
get
time.
so focused on the enemy and he's doing this and he's attacking me and he's coming after me. And I see that so often. And instead, if you could just say, oh, I see what's happening. And I know this isn't from God. Okay, watch what God will do now.
Yeah.
But there's so much in that thinking that you just have to, like you were saying, it has to be transformed.
You have to
So that
transform your
instead of
mind.
life feeling like it's coming after us in a negative way, we just have the thought that God's goodness is always coming after us.
Yes.
And that's the main focus.
Yes. And when God is always good, God is good all the time. When God is always good, it doesn't matter. That kind of leads us into our fourth one, which is circumstance focused. Again, let me wrap up 3. 3 is the way that you sabotage yourself is low pain tolerance. You've got to grow your pain tolerance. The antidote to that is to leverage your productive pain. Understand that that pain can be productive, which leads us into number 4, which is when we focus on our circumstances. Now, when you focus on your circumstances, then that dictates everything. It kind of goes back to that fixed mindset. These kind of all thread together. If I am circumstance focused, then what is going to happen? What's going to happen is I become the problem, and the problem becomes magnified. Sorry, my allergies are driving me crazy. My nose is itchy. So, circumstance focused, man, then everything that happens to me is the last word. That your circumstance is not the end of your story. Your circumstance is just a snapshot in time. If it's not a good story, then it's not the end of the story.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You can't focus on your circumstance because it will distract you from anything else. Like you were talking about, the sabotage. It'll distract you from being able to have a growth mindset. It'll distract you from everything around you, and it'll stop you in your tracks.
It will.
Because all you'll be thinking about is your circumstance needs to change. My circumstance needs to change.
Yeah.
So you can't think outside of that.
Yeah.
And so it sabotages your what you're doing, where you're going, what your life is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And with our counseling clients and our discipleship and all that, if somebody comes in and they start talking about, again, something external, it's my boss, it's my spouse, it's my, fill in the blank. They're so externally focused on the circumstance. I just lost my job. Okay. You lost your job. I think we can all agree that's not,
That's a painful thing.
It is. Okay, so now what are we going to do about it? Because the antidote to circumstance focused is an eternal focus. We are internally focused. So we're in it for the long vision. We're not in it for the short vision. Does God have a solution to your problem? 100% of the time. But if we stay so focused on this is what's happening right now, this is what's happening right now, my life is falling apart, it's terrible, I'm going through it, we hear it all. I'm going through a divorce, I'm being sued over here, my business is falling apart. If you believe that that's the end of your story, it's going to produce a lot of negative mindsets. You're going to lose faith, because if that's the end of your story, oh my God, how's God going to get me out of this? What is he going to do?
And a lot of times we have an idea of what we want him to do and how we want him to get us out of it.
How he needs to solve our problem.
Yes.
And that's the only way. It goes back to that fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Lord, if, let's just say a business is failing, Lord, I need $100,000 cash infusion. And so somebody comes along and gives you like a word of knowledge or something, but you don't listen to that. Because the only thing, you have a fixed mindset, the only thing that you can see is, only thing that will fix it is $100,000 cash infusion. But the prophetic word, the word of knowledge that you got, you just throw that out the window.
Yeah.
And we see that happen all the time when you become circumstance focused. Because that's all you can think of is, this is how it is, and this is how it's supposed to be, or this is how God will fix it. But when you have that, the antidote, the external focus, then this is not the end of my story. This is the point at which I am in the story right now. Let me read on.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story about people wanting to build a church. This was a long time ago, and they were wanting to do it at a certain location, and they got turned down. And I think he talked to somebody about it, and they said, well, good, I'm glad it didn't work out. And they were like, what? And they said, now Jesus can work. Now Jesus can do his thing.
Yeah.
And I love that, because we do want to solve it ourselves. We want to believe that we have the solution, the answer. And we get we get a fixed mindset on the way it has to be. And it's neat when we can get ourselves out of that, because God, if you let him do it his way, you might be shocked at what the result could be.
Yes, because his ways are higher. His ways are better. He has a solution before there's ever even a problem. And that's when you have the longevity of that eternal focus. He already has, whatever problem you have coming down the pipeline, he already has the solution figured out. And he's already trying to weave together the threads of our life so that all that intersects. But if we just become so focused on the circumstances, then we are going to miss the solution, the creative solutions that he brings in.
Yeah, and I can't help but think of how much more peace it would provide to maintain that thinking of like what you said about he already knows, he already has the solution because he's already gone before you.
Yes.
And I mean, if you really
have not surprised him in heaven.
Right. And if you think that way, you just go, okay, I'm just going to relax I'm just going to relax into this.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into chaos and try to, manipulate. I'm just going to relax and
That's
just
a good
trust.
point. Because a lot of times when we are circumstantially driven, we have that thought of what the end might look like, then we will manipulate it to that end, and we will sell ourselves short on what he has to offer us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we really have no idea. There's so many things he knows and sees that we can't.
Absolutely.
It's easy to forget that, and we want to fix it
Right now.
We think we know.
Because usually it's tied back to, I want to be out of pain. I want to feel good. I want to feel okay.
That's right.
And it's neat the way that it's not neat that we sabotage ourselves, but once you kind of start to catch on to how you sabotage yourself, then you'll see how they really thread together. Sabotage threads together, and then the antidotes thread together too. So if you begin to become aware of, oh, wow, that's sabotaging, then you do the antidote for it, then you're kind of like living in that antidote space versus all the sabotage.
Yeah.
So number 4 is circumstance focused versus the antidote, which is external focused. Now, moving on to the fifth and final, of course, it's not ultimately the final, but it's the final from this list, is 5 is a poverty mentality, or another way to say that is a lack mentality. Now, a lot of times we'll get a poverty mentality when we grew up in such a way and we have this false belief that I have to make whatever I have work. And it really does. It leads back to, again, like we're talking about, a fixed mindset. Let's say a lot of times we see it. We see it in people who are in relationships. And let's say somebody's dating this person and they're a cheater. Well, there's not the option to leave. What is the option? The option is I have to make this work because that's what you do in life. You don't get what you want. You don't get what blesses you. All these false beliefs kind of come together for this poverty mindset, this poverty mentality, and you just have to make it work. So if you're dating a cheater, okay, I just have to make him not a cheater, and then we'll live happily ever after. No.
Or not look at it, or ignore it, or accept it. Yeah. Or participate in it.
Yeah.
We'll just both cheat and not talk about it, or...
So with the poverty mentality, remember, it's a lack. You're constantly coming from a place of, I don't have any better options. I always tell people, our single people, excuse me, when you date, don't date from a place of lack. Don't just date somebody because they're Mr. or Mrs. Right now, I'm bored. I don't have anything better to do. No, that's not. You have a standard of what you're looking to partner your life with. And in dating, it's not about, you're never talking about somebody's value. You're just saying, these things align with what I'm looking for. And that's what you're looking at. But if, like, let's say if somebody's a missionary and you're called to your hometown, that's probably not going to work out.
Not if you want to be together.
But think about it this way. If you have a mindset of lack and then you start dating and you start liking each other, then you have that mindset, I have to make what I have work. And you don't look at, wow, is this even compatible? Will this work? No. So then each person from a poverty mindset, because remember, poverty, it's not just about money. Like, it's about emotions. It's about growth. It's about, you can have poverty in any aspect of your life.
In relationships, you're talking about.
Yeah. And so with that, what are you going to do? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought again.
You were saying that you can have a poverty mindset in other things, not just money.
It's not just money, because what begins to, I had a thought, it went, but it'll come back. So, when you have the poverty mentality with that, what I want you to begin to do is to recognize that you have lack. You don't just have to make something work. You have other options. And when you have other options, then your world expands versus it contracts. If you're dating, again, like we said, you're dating a person and you're like, this is the only person that's ever going to love me, the only person that's ever going to like me, the only person that's ever showed any interest in me. Oh God, I have to make it work. God, please, he's the one. Probably not.
Yeah. Probably not.
Probably not. But the fear drives with the mindset of lack. All you see is what you don't have. I don't have somebody that I want to partner with right now. I don't have somebody that I'm going into business with. All you'll see is I don't have. Versus the antidote, which is a wealth and abundant mentality.
Yeah.
With the wealth and abundance mentality is, my Father in heaven has all the resources. And so if he's called me to do something, he is going to provide and have provision for everything that I need to do.
Yeah. I will say, I recently had a conversation where I kind of did that practice a little bit, where I had a difficult conversation. And when I walked away, I thought about, man, that was hard. And I kind of played out the difficult parts. And then I said, whoa, hold on. What went right? What was beneficial about that conversation? And I started to play out, thinking about those things.
Yes.
Instead of focusing on what I didn't like or what I wish would have gone differently. I focused on the positive parts of it. But we could interweave that into all aspects of our life.
Absolutely.
To get, because that poverty mindset, I mean, it weaves through every part of your life. If you have it about one thing, you probably have it about a lot of other things in your life.
Mm-hmm. It's not, again, I can't say enough that poverty mentality is not just about money. It's, if you think of it, I don't even like to use the word poverty as much as I like to use the word lack. If you think every problem that you have is because I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, like if you don't have it, you don't need it. I mean, I hate to say that, because then somebody's going to say, well, I didn't have money for food. And so, like, are you saying that I just deserve to starve? No, that's not what I'm saying. If we have a mindset of lack, then it's like, I can't even think about how to earn some money to get some food, because it's that pervasive just in all aspects of your life that you can't see a way to do anything because everything is filled with lack. I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have the will to do this. I don't. And it's just a dangerous mindset to get into, instead of looking at okay, Lord, I don't have the will to do this. I don't have the resources to do this. Lord, you show me, because you in heaven have all the resources. And so if you have all the resources and something's not coming together, Lord, show me. Kind of goes back again to all these things we're talking about, blaming. You know, we can blame God sometimes. God, if you would just do this, if you would do that, if I have a low tolerance for pain, then I don't think there's a solution to anything, because I'm in so much pain. Why would I be in so much pain? Nobody can live a life in so much pain. And I get so focused on everything that's going wrong in my life. And then my mindset is life is just crappy.
Yeah. And if we think, like you were saying, God has all provision for us. He does. He has all that we need. And if we just were to say, you know what, God, how do I access it? What's the way? I know you've already provided these things, because you've already promised you would. What do you want me to do to go to access that? Because a lot of times it's already there. We just need to find the path he would have for us too.
Yes. So what I want, we've gone over number 5, is a poverty or lack mentality, and the antidote is the wealth and abundance mindset. I want y'all to think about these 5 things, and we'll list them. We'll probably, when we upload it, we'll list them in the notes too.
Yeah.
But I want you to begin to think about, the title of this message is, 5 ways you could be sabotaging yourself. And I want you to go over each and every one of these ways and say, wow, I'm supposed to get a transformation mindset. I'm supposed to transform the way that I think into, from the worldly mindset to a kingdom mindset. And are any one of these things holding me back in any area? Do I need to apply the antidote to what is supposed to happen in my life? Because it's really important if you want to see the growth that you're working so hard for. There's nothing worse than our clients coming in, and what happens is I'm working hard, and I just don't see the results.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk next week, like you said, at Roundtable Sunday. We'll be here in person, 5:30. Please come join us. But we're going to be talking about grit. And
grit is huge.
I think it'd be neat if you went through this list and throughout the week you started to pick one thing at a time and focus on, okay, let me look for where I have a fixed mindset. Let me look for where I'm circumstance focused, one at a time. And next week when you come and learn about how to have grit, you can already be aware of how these things are sabotaging you in your life, so that you can have some grit to switch over to the productive side of it.
Yeah. Without grit, you're going to wash away.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, even like grit, it kind of if you think of the word grit, it gives you some traction in your life. And you have to have some traction in your life, or else you will float away with all the cares of the world, and everything of the world will just consume you and take you off, and you won't be able to focus on the race that you're running.
It's going to be good. I can't wait.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
So we will sign off, and we will see you next week.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Yes.